What's up YouTube, Droll here from Zephyr Wargames, and today I am bringing you a discussion and a tutorial of how Swordsoul can play through or continue to build through a Droll and Lockbird. Now Droll and Lockbird is the highest represented hand trap currently of the format, and I expect it to be the same post-ban list as well. Now, the reason Droll and Lockbird is such an issue for Swordsoul is they do play quite a few cards that can run into it. That being said, they can also play a few cards that can deal with it as well. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe, especially if you want to see more Swordsoul content, whether it be test stands, duels, even more updated profiles, you name it. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about all of the cards that you can see before you and different routes of how you're going to play into a Droll, and then I'll tell you of how you can play around the Droll. Now, obviously, one of the go-to factors in order to deal with Droll will, of course, be Called by the Grave, but that's only a one-off. Another option that is incredibly good is, of course, Gamma, but if you do see the Gamma or you don't see the Gamma, there are ways of being able to protect these four cards here with Gamma. So some of these cards are still playable after you've been Drolled, some of them not so much. And what I mean by playable after you've been Drolled is, if you get Drolled on the resolution of these two, you're still able to produce a Synchro monster or a bit of a defensive wall even past that point. In regards to these two, if you have nothing else in your hand and you're pretty much blind drawing in order to compete your play, or you're going for a blind bridge in order to continue to the build, you will lose the most value. Doesn't mean the deck is dead, it just means that these are probably going to be the stronger ones to be hit with a Droll, whereas with these you can still make plays. I will show you exactly what plays you can make, and I'm not going to talk about the Moyi Yugioh one, the one where you special summon Yugioh and using Moyi, because you'll get a search of a Yugioh and a draw for Moyi, and then your opponent can draw you. Another way to out Droll and Lockbird is, of course, a hard open, a long one play, because then you can go into Baron to negate it outright. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you the two common cards that you're probably going to get Drolled on resolution. Now, this one's probably going to be a bit more effective because you can't protect with Gamma, whereas this one is very easy to protect. You can protect with Gamma. You can also continue to build your plays off the back of it. So I'm going to start off with the Emergence. The Emergence is pretty much going to be your one card combo, but again, just imagine that you're going to have 4 more cards to play with. So in this hand, if there is a long one, if there is a blackout, if there are more hand traps, you're still in a very good position. We're going to start off by activating Emergence. We're going to search off the back of the Emergence tire because that is our like one card starter, imagining that the rest of our hand isn't very good. So off the back of this, let's say our opponent activates Droll. We don't have a Gamma, we don't have a Call by to stop it. We can now no longer search. Well, where do you go and what do? You still proceed to do the normal play of normal summon tire and use this effect to banish the Emergence from the graveyard. This will then allow you to synchro summon out or spawn out a token, and then from the back of that, you're going to synchro summon into a Yugioh. Now at this point, keep in mind you cannot add off of the Yugioh because you are locked on the Droll and Lockbird, but what you can do with Yugioh is you can actually banish a Swordsoul card from the deck, and the one you're going to want to banish is of course going to be your Blackout. This will then allow you to spawn another level 4 token that is a tuner. Now you could stop here if you wanted to, 4 cards in hand and a small wall, or the one tech card that you could play that will really cause your opponent a lot of issues, especially if these are back rows that can be set, is you can synchro the token and the Yugioh and go into a super heavy samurai Brave Masano. Now the reason this is so good is it is a 4K defender that can attack in defense. It is generic, it is level 12, so very easy, the 8 plus the 4 makes this. And then when your opponent activates a spell trap or effect, you get to draw cards until you have 3 in the hand. So if I empty out my entire hand and set 4, during my opponent's turn, even though I'm under Droll my turn, I pass my opponent, they activate a spell trap effect, draw 3 new cards. If these are all hand traps, my opponent still needs to play through these hand traps, and then if they activate a spell, trap, or effect, I get to draw cards again. Now this is just a very strong 4K defensive wall. It is nothing absolutely amazing, but it is a card that if you're that fearful of Droll and Lockbird, that can really cause your opponent issues. Not to mention, off the back of that as well, if you really wanted to, when you spawn that additional token, so let's take it back a step. So when we synchro summon into Yugioh off of tire, again, you'd still banish the Blackout, but you'd also have the ability to Foolish Burial any of your Tenyis. So let's say we're going to Foolish Burial the Ashuna. Now the reason this is so important is because you can still banish the Ashuna because you've got a non-effect monster on the board, and that will allow you to special summon a Tenyi from the deck. And the one you want to go for is your Shafana, because then you can synchro the Shafana plus the token and actually go into another synchro level 8 worm, being your Draco Berserker. So even under Droll, you've been able to get a level 12 tech defensive wall that will allow you to draw cards and gain hand advantage, or you've been able to produce 2 very powerful level 8 synchros, one with a targeted negate with 2 options in the graveyard to do so, and a boss monster that can banish a monster's activate. When an opponent's monster activates its effect, you can banish it and it becomes a Mac Daddy boss monster, plus you still have 4 more cards to play with, so it's not the end of the world at that point. So that's probably the most ideal time that you're going to get Drolled. Now this is if you're constantly getting Drolled at locals, you're going to go, hey, you know what? Screw this, I'm going to start playing Gamma. But that is obviously all down to luck and if you see it. This is just one of the ones, if you have Emergence and your opponent has Droll, how far can you go? Well, the answer is quite simply 2 level 8s or a level 12 absolute fat stack boss monster that's going to allow you to continue to play. Now let's look at the weakest point, and that is Vessel. Now this is where a lot of people might actually play one of this, or they might cut it completely because of a scenario like this. That being said, it is still incredibly good, and if you do get Drolled, it's not the end of the world. Now, keeping in mind with Vessel, the only way that you're going to be able to get Drolled is like, the Foolish Burial is not Droll applicable, but as long as you control a non-effect monster, so let's say Special Ashuna, turn Ashuna into Monk, we now control a non-effect monster. We then activate Vessel. Vessel allows us to Foolish Burial a Tenyi, so on this one, we're actually going to Foolish Burial a Vishuda. Well, doesn't really matter. And the Hara or the Vishuda doesn't make much of a difference. If you haven't got a Shuna to the graveyard, that's the one you want to send, and I'll show you exactly why. So let's say we do that, and then let's say we add Vishuda, and our opponent goes, okay, cool, you've added a card from the deck to the hand, Droll and Lockbird. Okay, you're going to go, okay, so I'm now working with 1 less card than my first combo, but I've been able to replace it with a Vishuda. What do I do now? Well, very simply, you control no effect monsters, you get to special on the Vishuda from the hand, and then you'll have the ability to activate the Ashuna. Like I've said, whether that is because you haven't got, you Foolish Burialed the Ashuna, whether you added the Ashuna to the hand, you can still link it off into the Monk. You've got loads of consistent ways to get into this. What you're then going to do is you're going to special summon the Adhara from the deck. Now again, vice versa, this can all be replaced. The Adhara can be the one that was in the hand, the Vishuda can be the one special from the deck. You've got loads of different options. The reason that is so good is, yes, you are locked into worms, but again, you still have the ability to synchro these 2 together, and you can go into a Yugioh. Now again, the Yugioh cannot add, but Yugioh can still banish from the deck. So you still have that ability to banish the blackout, to spawn another token. If that wasn't enough, you still have the ability to activate the Adhara, and this will allow you to add back the Ashuna. So you've got a follow-up for the next turn should your opponent break it, and you also then have a Vishuda in the graveyard that can be used to bounce one of your opponent's monsters. You've still been able to maintain a replenished hand. Keep in mind as well, we haven't actually normal summoned any Swordsoul monster in this particular combo off of the back of Vessel. So if this is a Tyre, if this is a Moyi, you're still able to make the summon. If it's a long one, even better. You're still able to make the summon, and then you just add a monster to this end board. The whole idea behind this is if you get Droll and Lockbirded, it's not the end of the world. You still make Yugioh, but instead of adding, you can banish the Blackout. And that is why Blackout is worth considering playing at 2, because then you've got multiple options as well. And that's pretty much it. A short, sweet, simple video just to kind of show to you guys, if you get Droll and Lockbirded, do not go, okay, Scoop, let's go to game 3. You always Droll and Lockbird, bro. What's going on? You can actually go, yeah, that's fine. All right, whatever. And your opponent will be like, ha, I've stopped you. You're not doing anything. And you go, well, I'm actually going to tech in an insane boss monster that's going to let me draw during your turn. Or I'm going to go with 2 level 8s in the form of Berserker and Yugioh. You've got so many different options, it's not game over, and that is all, like I've said, with 1 card in the hand or 2 cards in the hand, meaning you still have 3 more cards of hand traps to slow your opponent down, or even back row like imperms, and an additional hard opened blackout as well that can do huge amounts of damage. So that's it for that little kind of tutorial video. Something a little bit different. It was mainly off of the back of a lot of people kind of saying, oh yeah, well, if you get Drolled, is it like game over? And I was like, well, no, it's not. Yes, obviously there's more ideal cards to be hit with a Droll of. If you're that worried about it, it's very good to play a Gamma, because nothing feels better than going Small World and they go, after resolution, Droll, and you go, huh, Gamma? Because then that gives you free access to an Omega. Omega rips another one from your opponent's hand. They're now playing with 3 cards, and you've been able to continue to make your plays as and when you see fit. So Gamma is definitely something you would consider for this deck. It's definitely something I'm considering for this deck, and that might be in my next update for it. But I still think this deck is incredibly powerful and very underrated, and I can't believe how important and powerful Ringo Worm has been for this deck. Absolutely mental, and thoroughly enjoying it. Anyway, I hope this has been informative. I hope it's given you a couple of ways to work around the most annoying hand chat of the format, being Droll and Lockbird, and how you continue to still build your board and still cause your opponent a lot of issues, even when they think they've won the game off of a single card. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. If you want to see more Swordsoul content, more text, you name it, I will be more than happy to bring it for you and update it as we see fit. So with all of that out of the way, stay safe and of course, happy dueling.